And you're a student here?
No, I'm not a student.
Oh, you're with AIA Brooklyn.
No, I'm AIA now.
Okay.
Associate.
Got it. And
Are we like mentioning like work related to?
working now within architecture.
No.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, that was my first question. I mean, there's a lot that I could say. Support, I would say this is quite simple in my mind. Graduate, get a job, full-time job with an architect, a firm like Perkins, which is huge, like 300 people. Well, worldwide, they're probably like 5,000, I don't know. Or a small firm, 5-person firm, like what I did when I graduated. And you're in that culture, right? You're there day and night. Well, things change. Maybe you're there like 3 days a week, 4 days, and 1 day remote. Okay, so this is all like COVID related, right? Down the road. So every office is a little bit different, right? But basically, you're in that soup, in that stew, right? And you're surrounded by your, other recent graduates and folks like that have been licensed for decades. You're in that world, that environment. You're going to be fine. You'll be fine in terms of taking your exams, right? But everyone's different, right? Some of our, like Chris, you wanted to get licensed as soon as possible. There are folks that want to get licensed ASAP for whatever reason. There are other folks that kind of like just go along and it comes to you more organically over time. That was my thing. I mean, I would just say that when I was a student in undergrad, working my my Bachelor of Architecture, I had no intention of going to grad school. Not at all, nothing. But now I have students, they're like, I want to go to grad, they're in their second year here, and they already are planning to go to grad school. Look, it's a different time and place. But for me, I just wanted to graduate, find a job, and enter the real world, and I did that. And for the first, it was a small office, 5-person office, so I encourage everyone, try to get some sort of work experience before you graduate, right? That's what I did. I lucked into something, it was part-time in my 4th year, and so that sort of transitioned me into after I graduated, I had the same job, the same office. That was a very, very healthy thing for me to do. But once I was in that office, day and night, well, 5 days a week, it was like, I realized, is this it? It just didn't seem like enough, right? So that's when I thought of grad school. I went to grad school. Seeking, I wasn't looking for that certificate necessarily, but it came in handy because when you have a master's, you can do what? You can teach. You need a master's to teach, at least, right? So you need that master's. So that came in handy as well. But I was like searching. So I went to grad school, came back to New York City, found a job, worked full time, and at night I would go home and study. I could never do that today. Study for the exams, and I passed them. In those days, I think Nick knows this, in those days, all of New York State came down to New York City and took the exam as a group. I don't know, 500 people, 1,000?
At least 500. Yes.
At least 500. And for me, it was on one of the piers, in the Hudson River, like West 50th Street. I filled that pier 4 days in a row, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And each day you'd have to arrive at 8:30 in the morning and you finish later in the day. And it was all on paper. And the final day, the 4th day, was the design part of it. So everyone brought in their drafting tables. Does anyone know this? You know this. You read your history books, okay. So our drafting tables with tracing paper and pencils and all that. And we had 12 hours. We were given a program at 8 o'clock in the morning, a written program, what the project is. 12 hours to finish the drawing. And by 8 o'clock at night, you submit your drawings, and then you go home and cry. Well, so, I don't know, you're probably past that stage for yourself. So that's old school. So that's my main, I'm going to stop talking, but I think, get a job and you're going to be fine. You'll be in that culture, you'll have plenty of support. Okay.
Sure. And the clip.
Oh, right.
And the clip.
Here you go. You need to do it for you.
Sure, that's good.
There.
Thank you. Before I start, I have a question for Christopher.
Did you do the iPal program while working through school? No. They don't do that anymore? But they were doing it.
What it says?
iPal,
Oh, right.
go ahead. Practice, yeah. Yeah, so you could start an iPal program through Ncarb, and then they would help you get through school and your diploma with the goal of being licensed upon graduation. And that was a goal. Well, not everybody did it, but that was a goal, but they had a program. So I thought you might have engaged in that program. We would go there and take a mock test, and they would have us there for 12 hours trying to do this design test. So I didn't have any support to do that. I had to make up my own study regimens to do this, and it was kind of isolating, and it was grueling. It was isolating and grueling, but I was very happy to do it. But that leads me to tips and tricks. What that made me realize was you have to decide you want it, and that's the most important thing, is setting the goal, is that you want to become a licensed architect and you want to pass those exams. And the second thing you cannot do is procrastinate. Because when people start procrastinating, the path, which you really can, within 3 years of graduation, is a very respectable amount of time for passing a licensing exam. The more you procrastinate a year, now you're 5 years out. You procrastinate 2 years, now you're 8 years out. Our lives get more complicated and more rich as we get older, and we don't have that ability, like Kenneth said, to work during the day and come home and study. You want to come home and be with your family or do things with your friends. It's so important to attack these exams ASAP and get those things done. And that would be my tip is just create the goal and then make your compromises to satisfy the goal. It doesn't mean to torture yourself or to make your life miserable or to walk down the path to depression or anything like that. But set a reasonable goal and integrate studying for those exams and passing the exams as part of the goal. Set a reasonable goal. Don't say, oh, I have to do it in a year and a half. Within 3 is very respectable time upon graduation. And if you start taking the exams while you're in school, you pass a couple, well, there's less exams to pass. What I had done back in the Stone Age, the first time I took the test, and we didn't have to, but you took every section, and that was 4 days. I didn't study 1 page, and I passed half the tests. So I was like, great, now that's half the studying I eliminated for myself. The next round, I knew there were things I knew nothing about, which was the contracts and some technical things. So I studied those, I passed those, and then it was down to 2 exams that I had to take, and I studied and passed. I just passed those 2 exams. So the goal, the tip really is set reasonable goals, and I think Deborah's story about she didn't pass, don't let yourself get down about it, sign up for another exam, and move on with that exam. Don't think if you didn't pass, you're a failure. They're difficult exams, they're tricky, and you may not have been on that day, but study the material they ask you to study, because they'll give you a list of the textbooks and study material. Don't try and stray too far from those. And Brooklyn AIA has a great study group, right? Great study group. So I would go right over there and find a group of people that you want to study with. I was always working with small firms when I was younger, but the larger firms always had study groups within the firms. So there even now with larger firms, that exists. There's people taking the exam, right? And there's study groups within the exam. And look at them. Instead of shopping on your phone or watching some YouTube video, get the study material and go through it while you're having lunch and on the train. Just learn things. When it was so interesting about the things I learned while studying for the exam that I never would have thought that I would have known. And it enhanced my vocabulary. It enhanced my ability to understand what was going on around me in the office. And once you get past that licensure, it's really, you lift off the ground. And the phrase that I like to say is, you don't want to say no. You know that phrase with drugs, just say no? With architecture, you don't want to say no. You want to say yes. When people are going to say, the first question they ask you when you tell them you're an architect, they say, are you licensed? And it's true, right? First thing they do, are you licensed? And so you want to say yes. You don't want to say no.
Thank you. Those are amazing tips. So I'm going to do something. I'm going to ask you guys to come up and not to shout your questions, but within earshot, you can ask your questions. So please, anything goes. There's no silly question. It's all good. And part of it is if you're thinking about the question, somebody else is thinking the same thing. So come on up, sit up front, and then feel free to ask your questions about licensure. Even planning. Yeah, like where do you start? Like there's several starters that you can do. Go to Ncarb, download the Ncarb study guide. It's a free PDF, and that gives you an overview of each of the exams. The other is
That's if you have an Ncarb account.
if you have an Ncarb account. Okay, well,
It's still free, even if you don't have an account.
Even if you don't have the account?
okay.
But
I was
if you-
gonna
but
then
if you have-
say
But if you have the account, then you could take some of the practices.
Yes, you can take a
that's right.
practice.
The practice exams are with the account. So if you establish an account, you can start taking those practice exams. Otherwise, you can join the AIA Brooklyn ARE study group, which happens twice, 1 month, 2 times. And there's also on Zoom, so you can join anytime. I got my licensure late in 2019. And I took the long route, had family, dealt with 2 boys, but I can tell you what Devorah expressed, the joy of saying passed everything, or even passing 1 exam was amazing. It's worth it, trust me, it is so worth it. And I'm not doing traditional practice these days. I'm actually in more analytics, risk management, business operations, project lifecycle, cost management. What's all that? It's significant when you are an architect in the other related fields. So get licensed.
Can I just add one more thing?
Yes.
I forgot to mention this, but this has to do with the paper exam. For about 10 years, I taught a class in preparing people to pass the licensing exam at NYU. So I was part of NYU, and people would come to me, and we would do an 8-hour exam. It would be on a Saturday, and people would come in there. And I came up with a program that I used for me to pass the exam, it was the design exam, which was the one everybody had a hard time with. I just learned how to do it perfectly, even if it took me 4 days to figure that out. And then I would get another practice exam, and then it took me, 9 hours. But I learned how to do it perfectly, even if it took me forever to do that. Because it's like riding a bicycle. It takes a long time to get it, but once you got it, you can ride anywhere with it. And that's what learning the exams are going to be like. Learn the material, learn it perfectly. Use the tests, learn how to do those tests perfectly. Get as much reference material as you can there. But I met a lot of people through that experience. A lot of famous people came through me. A lot of people who didn't pass, failed 12 times, right? And it was an amazing experience for me to be able to help so many people get past this hurdle of passing this design exam that's this 12-hour marathon exam. And helping them with the thinking, and it's all in the thinking. And the one thing that Ncarb always says, or the advice is, give Ncarb the answer they want, not the answer you think is correct. And that's a way of thinking that you need to adopt so that you could be a higher rate of succeeding on those exams.
That's part of what the study group helps you think about. Because if everybody's questioning the same mistake, you can actually think through it together and hear different perspectives. I failed the structure exam 4 times, but ask me anything about structure and I'll tell you.
You should have taken my class.
So that it's a positive, because through failure you're really reinforcing your strength, right? The weakness that's now stronger. So there's always positives, and I would say celebrate, the wins and the losses, because it's a lot to go through together. So questions, please. So Linda's gonna bring the mic around. So, and I'm gonna leave this here with you guys.
Hi guys.
Thank you for
I can
coming.
talk to you guys. Yeah, no problem. Thank you. I'm Chris. I'm a senior here. I was supposed to take your class, but
Which one?
professional practice.
I don't teach that.
No?
I used to.
Used to? Okay. Well,
you mean
I
the
would love
internship? You mean
the internship class.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's different.
I got pushed into like business, like financial management or something like that. They said it would be like equivalent, but I don't think so. No, yeah, I know. But I have a few questions. Let me get my thoughts together. I would say, what are the pros and cons of working at a large or small firm? So like if you, I'm trying to pick kind of like choose which path, or does it really matter? Should I just like go head first into whatever option I get? Yeah. This is open.
We all have opinions about this.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it's,
I mean,
Would
I
be
think,
subjective, but-
for myself, I did
I would like to hear your opinion.
at big firms like Perkins Eastman. There were 400 people at the time on Fifth Avenue. Hold on. Get this thing. You were supposed to do this for me. 400 people at the time on Fifth Avenue. To working on my own and with another partner or two. So I've seen, and I've also been at city agency, New York City School Construction Authority, 700 people. So, and everything in between. So, I mean, I think the rule of thumb is sort of like when you're in a big office, like Perkins Eastman, for example, you're gonna be doing like one, maybe this is like changed, hopefully it's changed. Maybe you have something to add, is that you're gonna be doing toilets day and night, that's it, or stairs, right? And it's not like that anymore, I know, but hopefully it's not. In a smaller, I'm just giving you like the big picture. In a smaller office, you're gonna do everything, right? You're gonna meet with clients possibly, the contractors, you're gonna be drafting, you're gonna be maybe drawing up the agreements, the contracts. So you do a little bit of everything. So that's the big range.
Okay.
I need the
Oh.
I will agree with that 100%. I started at a small firm, and partially to my own detriment, and not a bad thing, that was a joke. I wanted as much experience with every single part of a project as possible. So I was looking specifically for a small firm, and then even within that small firm, I pretty much told the partners right away, I'm really interested in learning everything. And when I tell you I learned everything, I learned everything. I was doing expediting, I was talking to the Department of Buildings here, I was talking to the Landmarks Department, in addition to designing and drawing everything that I then had to show them. I was doing pavement plans to reflected ceiling plans to renderings, like every single thing to get it from start to finish. I wanted to learn that, and so I asked for that, and I did that. I don't know if that's the same at a larger firm. I don't have that experience, but I do the friends that I have working at larger firms have had not exactly toilets, but it is.
Yeah, I have more than I need to say about this. We got the little tag there.
We've got this down. We've got this down. Okay.
My answer would be both. I think that they both offer so much value to describing things. I just started jotting a couple of things down. Scale, right? So if small firms usually work on smaller projects, you know, they're not going to do stadiums or big museums or things like that. And so if you're interested in scale of a project, the political engagement of a project, learning about that, large offices are great. They're really great. Large, for protocols, in other words, structure, large offices are much better to learn about that because they have to be absolutely precise about their structure. Small office can be a little looser with that. You know, I'm a small office. We're a little looser. I mean, I've worked in large offices, so I have the protocols. But you can let it slide from time to time. And I think that those are two things for me that were really huge. In my personal life, I chose small offices because I didn't want to work all the time. I think large offices have more of a demand on your time. You want to be working a lot. There were some things I like to do in my free time, and I wanted to be able to negotiate that with the people I was working with without becoming a hindrance to the larger team. And what was the other one? And then you need to establish what the driving factor is for you for what you want out of your work experience. Is it money? Is it quality of work? Is it time?
Knowledge.
Dollars, yeah. Mine was time. Time was important to me. My time was important to me. And I wanted to have free time, so back then we didn't get comp days. You know, there was stuff like that didn't exist. So if you could decide that, you know, between time, money, quality, risk, and the types of clients you might want to be in contact with, or you may not want to deal with clients, right? That would help you decide whether you want a big, small, or medium firm to work with. And it's just a way of thinking. So money, stability. Small firms aren't always so stable, right?
Yeah.
So those things are other things to consider when you're thinking firms.
Next, oh, sorry.
Are you working now?
I also wanted
No,
to.
not in the field anymore. I had an internship for about a year and a half at Lothrop Associates in Westchester and White Plains under William Simmons, Bill Simmons. He's the principal architect. And I was in the aquatics division, so we only worked on water features, natatoriums, swimming pools. So I worked on quite a lot of projects similar to your experience. It was a medium to small size firm, so I got to work through like all stages of design and, you know, submittals, redlining other people's work, receiving red lines to complete.
And how did you find that job?
I live in Westchester, so I saw a sign somewhere, and shortage of work. There was a lot to be
Right.
done, and I think they needed more time out of me because I did learn everyone's job, and I was not a key part of it, but I became a part of the system, and I was coming to school, and I was also working another job, so I just ran out of time. I kind of burnt out, and I'm still here, finishing
Great.
school, but you know, they said, you know, we're always here, come back when you're done, but I'm not sure if that's the route I want to go. So.
Great. I want to layer in something across the timeline of the practice, right? You'll have at the very beginning the client generating proposals, capital budgets, and then you're doing proposals for the bid to win the project, and how you write those proposals so that the client sees you and your talent. And then you have the pre-schematic, schematic, DD, CD, and then you have the field experience, change orders, risk, and construction inspection, yeah, all of that, TRs, you name it. That breadth is not all there is. There's actually more. There's the business side of running that whole life cycle. So if you're getting into the finance, smart move. If you're getting into the economics, great move. If you're getting into AI and digital platforms, great move. The knowledge growth is endless. It's just a continuum. And if you perfect that little bathroom upgrade to the point where you know exactly the tiling joints and sequence and the mud set versus the thin set, you're an expert. You can go in that niche route. So don't see it as like pigeonholed. You know, I always like to say the cup is half full, not half empty. Because if the partner sees you and your ability to adopt and learn that knowledge in whatever span that you're there, you can ask for another advancement. The other thing is, once you go into a firm, you need to find, you mentioned it, your mentor, right? Mentor is so important. I started as a high school intern, actually, for the SCA. And I went to Bruce and Sampton. It was a mid to large firm. And they have a variety of projects, developers, school, private school, transit. One of the partners mentored me. He was amazing. And he wanted to know, like, how do you do CAD revisions so fast? I'm like, I'll teach you. You teach me. Like, you just swap your skill, because you are just as skilled as they are. They're in a different end spectrum and you're on the other spectrum, right? That's how you partner. So be engaged, take public speaking when you can, and expose yourself to other information. Like this weekend, I'm gonna put a plug here, shameless plug. This week is Architecture Week. It's the inaugural Architecture Week for Brooklyn, but AIA National has been celebrating Architecture Week, and it's in the middle of April. For Architecture Week, it's really highlighting what architects do and what architecture has done. It is, you know, beyond the professional practice of the welfare, the health, safety that you uphold as an architect, but also the design thinking, the solutions that you can bring to communities that are in need right around us. Right? There's mental health issues. You can be that solutions architect that comes in. So it's not just the traditional practice, but it's more. And so this weekend here at City Tech, we are hosting a high school workshop called Reading the Block. We need volunteers. Like, you can be engaged and be a mentor to high school students. It's just the way you practice how you teach. And potentially in the future, you can then be lecturing and put that on your resume. Every experience is an experience on your resume, if you want to build that craft. But the one thing that does not change is who you are. Find out who you are. Do those personality tests and figure out what makes you tick, that you're passionate about, because that's going to come through time and time again. Whichever firm you pick, you're still going to desire to come around to. If it's knowledge you want to grow and learn, you're just going to continue. You have that high energy, then firms need to put you in exciting things to solve problems. All right, I went off tangent, so please, your questions.
Hello everyone, my name is Ronald. I'm a third year. My question is to you guys is there something you wish you knew before starting your first job or internship? Like, you know, before you knew into the field?
Could you repeat that?
Is there something you wish you knew before starting your first architecture firm, like you were work there, or your internship at an architecture firm?
I can answer. I'll start at least. I did not go to school here. I want to preface that so I don't offend anybody. However, the real world is not like school. So I would just say manage your expectations. The way we learn is similar. It's by doing. But unless you ask to be explained, like, why do I draw this? Why am I doing it this way? That won't be explained to you in most firms, I will say. I try to explain it to people that are working under me because I know that's how I learned. And sometimes people are not so comfortable asking, hey, can you explain why I'm doing this? But like a life safety plan, why am I drawing this line this way? Hey, it's because the building code says this wall needs to be 2 hours, so this is why we draw it this way. Things like that, that would be my advice to you. So, well, that would be something I wish I knew, that it's not like school where your professors are explaining why we're doing something. If you want to know why, you have to ask. But there's always a reason why. Like, there's no unintentional line that we draw. Everything has an intention. Why? That's what you're going to learn.
And senior management actually like that.
Yes.
Why are you doing this? Because it gives them a fresh perspective. So be curious and always ask. So before I do this, am I doing this right? What can I reference? You know, should I look at zoning? All of that is at your fingertips with AI.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback on that, and I think that's what the exam tests you on. It's understanding the logic and the reasoning behind decisions we make. So I think
I think that's a great question. And I've been pondering, like, I wonder what I wanted to know before I got there. But I was just so happy to be there that I wasn't thinking about, oh, I didn't learn this or I didn't learn that. I knew there was going to be a lot I didn't know. And I just wanted to be open to it all so I could absorb it like a sponge and use it. So that would be my answer, is that I'm just happy to be working and have a position, and that I love the people in architecture firms and what we do and where we talk and where we relate to each other. Was all incredibly exciting for me. Now, with that said, now I'm going to sort of think a little bit. Now that I'm at the other end of my career, right, I'm like, how could I have done this better? I did not go to graduate school, but I think that maybe it would have been wise for me to take some time and do something like graduate school after I got my license. In other words, I went from undergrad to that path to getting a license, and after that, I should have just really taken a little time, rethought a few things, instead of staying so engaged in the same stuff all the time. And then think a little bigger instead of always working in the office. That was the only thing that I think it relates to what your question was. But it was kind of post already doing everything. But I still love going to work every day. It's just fascinating.
I have to go in 5 minutes, but just let me see. What was I going to say? Is that my feeling is, and I'm probably going to get pushback here, is that take your time. Don't rush into it. This whole licensing thing. It's like, I don't know what's going on these days. This is new-ish to me. Take your time. When you're in a culture, like an office, an architectural office, and you're working day after day with colleagues and clients and contractors and DOB and all of that, you're in a world, right? And you're going to absorb that, and you'll be part of that. And the licensing thing is a little bit of an aside in a way, because you could work in that office, Perkins Eastman, for the rest of your career without a license. And you could be working on projects big and small around the world without a license. So I have a friend that's my age, and he's doing that at Rockwell, the Rockwell Group. He's been there for 40 years, and he's still not licensed. No need for it. But okay, if you want to go on your own, you do need to get the license, right? And you sign and seal, and you take on the responsibility. So careful about that. So you also need professional liability insurance, right? You want to create an entity, a PLLC. Does anyone know what a PLLC is? It's a business entity. You want to create a little business separate from yourself. It's a professional limited liability company. All of those things are important because once you sign and seal, and whenever there's a structural element and the project comes my way, I don't sign on that. I bring it to a structural engineer and have the structural engineer sign and seal. So I know I'm rambling a little bit here, but I just think, you know, give it time. I think, you know, I think there's education, and that's what most of us are. I know it's a different time these days. I'm thinking about my, 40 years ago. But there's education, right? Travel, see the world a little bit as a student, and then you graduate, and then you're working, if you're lucky, right? Ebbs and flows, believe me, we were knocking on doors in the early 90s, looking for work. You get a job as a substitute teacher in the public schools, drive a cab, which I never did, but almost did, just to pay the bills and stay within the profession. So I'm rambling here, but I would just say, give it time, let it distill within you. And if you're meant to be licensed, it should happen in an organic way, right, rather than forcing it upon yourself. So, anyway, any questions? Another question?
You're right, I disagree.
You disagree? Oh, for sure.
So the whole point of professional exam is often to teach you where you have to go to figure more information out, but it's wide breadth. So I'm just curious how much information that you studied for the exam is retained or maintained to the sharpest. I have this anxiety of studying for the exam and I can pass the exam, but the moment when I walk out of that room, it evaporates out of my hair immediately because I shoveled that down my so it's not interesting.
It's not a math exam, it's not a history exam. It's testing your minimum competence in what you're doing in the office. And that's really what they're looking for. So if you're engaged in your office, the information that you already know will be validified in the exam. And then there's things you don't know. There's just stuff you don't know. There are things that I learned while studying for the exam that I still know. I don't use them, but it raised the bar. In other words, it brought me to the level to be able to understand all these things, so no matter who I spoke to, I had an experience with it, and I didn't say, what's that? It gave me there. And it's a minimum, they're not trying to get you to be here. They don't want you to stay here. They just wanted to get you to a minimum level. The code is minimum levels, right? It's not the highest to go, or the minimums. And that's what the exam is. And so you'll piggyback information on top of the information you already know, and that's the best way to learn something. So those tests you study for, if you took calculus, right, and you took this test, and it's gone the next day. You can't remember it. But it's not like that. You become bigger, better, fuller, and more articulate about being an architect. And that's something that, that's the value added of taking those exams.
One last thing. So, just on top of that yeah, I am. Yeah, 1 minute is I have so, do you want to teach? Eventually. So, if you teach, you go through that every semester. You learn and learn and learn, right? So it's like kind of nonstop if you're teaching. So it depends what course you're teaching, but right? We're both teaching, and we relive all of that information over and over and over, and it's like in our blood in the end.
Can I build on something you said?
Sure.
Testing. Okay, I got it. Everything that you know, as we heard from that table, will be solidified within the material that you're learning. In my experience, what you do forget, you don't entirely forget. You remember that you need to know that. And the good news about real life practice is you can then look it up after. So even if you did forget the ins and outs of that detail, you can remember in the real world, oh wait, there was something else, and then you go ahead and do that research. So even if you do forget everything, you don't actually forget everything. I don't know if what I'm saying is making sense. You remember that there's something you need to know, but you do have the resources to then look that up. So even if you memorized it just for that exam, it kind of lives in the back of your brain, and then you can look it up again. So I wouldn't have anxiety about that. I wouldn't overthink that. I don't remember my calculus exams from college. Like, yes, some information goes in and out. The stuff that you need on a day-to-day basis at your job, you know, because you do it every day, and then the exam's fill in the blanks for when you need to relearn something.
Yeah, and I think that I would say don't memorize anything. Like, as weird as that sounds, having taken my exams just a few months ago, I know exactly like the instance where I'm like, oh, I've seen this on a project and it's from my memory, but it's not something that I know super strictly. And I think the reason I would say don't memorize is because building codes change, programs change. I got tested on BIM, and I knew that because I had done BIM for some offices before, but if you hadn't been exposed to it, you would not know that information, and you wouldn't know that you had to study that information. I think one of the resources Deborah mentioned about Amber Book is actually very catered to that. It tells you, do not try and memorize anything, just try and understand the information. And so if you switch your mindset to that, it becomes a whole lot easier. Do treat all the exams as one. That is another thing that they mentioned, I think, page 1 of the program. Don't memorize anything. Or don't, take everything as one exam, because it is like that. So I wouldn't, say, okay, I don't know this material enough so I can't take the exams. I would say sign up for your exams and then start studying for them. You can always reschedule them. So, yeah, don't memorize them.
Yeah, I'm gonna add one more thing. Where do the questions come from? Okay, so Ncarb polls the profession and asks them, what should people be knowing at that minimal level when they become an architect? And we get these polls, they come to us, and we fill out, oh, they should know this, they should know that. Everybody's got a different opinion of that. And they call all that information. And that's how they decide what questions are going on that exam and what you should know. So that exam basically says to the industry, hey, this person is, reached this level, knows in general all the things we find as important. And that's why it's a good exam. They're good exams to take, because they focus. You have to focus and to do it. And they focus us. So we become architects, not veterinarians, right? Not psychiatrists. We become architects. But those questions are created by consensus. And that's something to keep in mind. So they're not trying to trick you. It's not academic. They're not academic questions. They're professional questions. And that's why I think it's really important to take those tests as quickly as possible to get yourself at that position.
Could there be one more question and I can mull it over in the subway and then I'll get back to you next year?
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Okay, so I graduated in 2023 with my BR from here. And in my time as a student, I worked a little bit in the industry. I worked in architecture. I started my Ncarb, all those things. Life happened. And so I've been away from the industry for about 3 years now. For a little bit in there, but not as in-depth. So I guess I just want some advice on feeling out of touch with the industry, and then also re-entering and then catching back up with my Ncarb, because I'm sure there's so many hours from 2023 that are just lost now.
So I think there's a couple of questions in there. I'm just gonna jump into the Ncarb one first. Email me. I'm an Ncarb advisor. We'll see if we can. Did you maintain your Ncarb record? Did you pay the yearly fees? You did. So they're not lost. You're fine. Don't worry about it. Never mind. You don't have to email me. You're more than welcome to email me. You don't have to. If you've maintained your Ncarb record, those hours should still be there. If not, you can email me. Now the other one, re-entering the industry. There are multiple facets of the industry, as me said. If you've taken the time and stepped away, if you realize you don't like doing design, that's fine. You don't have to go into design in the industry. If you do like design, you know that now. Again, I think the fact that you've taken a step back is not necessarily a bad thing. It may have like awakened a part of now. So part of you has been awakened, like, hey, I want to get back in. You may know a little bit more what type of job you want to get back into. Do you want to do the analytics? Do you want to do the risk management and the budgets? That's very numbers. Kudos to you, because God, no. But you can certainly go in that direction. You can go in the public works direction. You can go into the private direction. You may even have an idea of what types of jobs or projects you like, and that might help you make that decision of where you want to go. We had a great discussion about big firm versus small firm. You may know, hey, I want to understand what it is to manage a product start to finish. You may want to go to a smaller firm. You may not want to do that. You may want to do renderings. You go to a big firm. Don't be down on yourself because life happened, because life will continuously happen. Just use it to reframe and maybe focus yourself on which part of it have you been missing that you now feel the desire to get back into it.
So Farzana was a student in my internship class, and she's working here now, right? You're working part-time in our department doing amazing things, and you see us all the time, so you're in the culture, but somehow you're detached from it, right? So I asked you earlier today, like, so do you want to go, are you still in architecture, and you're not sort of like not sure, and you're thinking about maybe interior design, and so I was pushing you a little bit, you know. When I see people that I know in the hall, on the streets, wherever, I ask. So touch base with me and we'll have a, talk. Everyone, thank you. I have to head out.
For real?
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Ken. Thank you, Ken.
I'll follow that up and just continue the conversation. I think there's an importance in stepping back and just analyzing and saying, what do I want to do? We constantly do that in the firm, questioning whether the clients we are targeting right now are the exact clients we want to be working with. So by taking that step back, I think you've actually done yourself a good job in that sense, because you are more informed about what you want to do. And I've definitely in my sort of timeline taken steps back. I've been in school, out of school, working full time. So it's important to do that. And I think holistically down the line, you're gonna thank yourself for doing that.
I don't think you have a problem. Just keep moving forward. In other words, we all take little breaks. I took a break after from getting out of school till, I was aloof. I was in school from kindergarten till graduating after my 5th year. I had it with school and structure. I needed to be fun and free for a while, and then I re-engaged. And there's no crime, sin, no problem with that. And if this is something you'd like to do, engaging in the path to licensure is a great one because it has structure to it, right? And you can follow that structure. You don't have to be at the mercy of things that come at you. You could say, oh, I'm going to do this month. I'm going to study these things and get it done. And it's a great thing to do. And then inadvertently, at some point, you have a license and you say, wow. And you never know when that thing is going to come in really, really hit. You never know.
I think you can all agree they're all excellent points. There's a value to be licensed. I actually resigned from public sector work to get my license, and there's no regrets. And I pulled back for 2 years to finish that license, a few exams, and it was tough. But in hindsight, I mean, that was nothing. I don't even remember it. I just remember crying after missing the structure, and then having to transfer into the new exam, 6-part instead of the 9-part. Talk to me if you want to revamp your resume, because everything you've been doing is networking with the profession. You do realize that. I see you. And everything you do can be revamped into your resume, that you are actively serving in the profession. And that's it. That conduit is massive. Like Turnpike, it's huge. There's so many pathways through it. There's not one path for everybody. It's multiple pathways. You just need to map it to show and demonstrate to your employer, whoever you're seeking, to, again, know your passion, what makes you tick and what makes you happy. Yeah, I know, data and things like that makes me happy, sadly. But it's actually solving the problem for the public sector. So I'm back in the public sector. I'm solving a bigger issue with the city, a systems approach. And then it takes time. 5 years knocking up against a mountain, and now it's a little pebble. So it's worth it. There's different types of impact that if you are enjoying it, you keep going, but it's a really small network. You meet architects left and right, so make sure you end with a positive note wherever you go. Internship, your professors, Roman, right? My student. Everything is a positive, is how you make others' lives better, and I think Farzana is a superstar, and she does that a lot for City Tech. I just wanted to add that, you know, you are a superstar. So I'm gonna, please, more questions, you guys.
Thank you.
Be bold.
Hello. Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Javier. My question is, I was kind of confused on, like, that part where you guys were talking about the where to take the exam. Is there like a specific like computer you have to like take it on? Like, I have a Windows computer. Can you take the exam there?
Yeah, I can answer that question. Thank you. So there's two ways to take the exam. You either go to a center that sets everything up for you basically, and you just sit in front of their computer and you take the exam. The other one is taking it from home. That's where the computer becomes, I guess, a question, right? The Mac versus PC, that is a new policy. So if you have a Windows computer, you're fine. There are, however, different and you, again, I didn't take any of the exams personally remotely. Did you? I mean, you did it from home? Okay, so you can probably talk about this a little more. But there's rules, and the new rule, I don't know if you know about this, is you also have to have your iPhone to the proctor center. So you will, I'm gonna let you talk about it. Go.
Okay, the iPhone thing I didn't do. So
Well, yes, that's new.
So that's new. Yeah, so I took all my exams within sort of our co-working enclosed office space. We have a key, and you can't have anyone around you. That's super important. You can't have any papers. Your desk has to be empty, and you have to have a USB camera because they want you to be able to pan around the room to kind of show that you don't have something hiding under your desk, something on top, someone else in the room feeding you information. So that was a process. I think there's also internet connection. So you have to have a really strong internet connection. If not, you're going to be kicked out of the exam. It's not going to affect your exam, but you're going to have to go through the whole identification process to come back into the exam. And you're already anxious enough taking your exam. You don't want to be working on a question and then it kicks you out. So there are certain requirements, but I believe there's guidelines as part of the ARE examination guidelines that tell you everything you need to have. And there are sort of preparatory appointments that you can have in advance of the exam if you want to use your computer and just make sure that you're set out.
Any other questions?
Hi, my name is Kunchok. My question was, I remember you mentioned how you kind of landed in a different area of architecture and how architects are important in maybe like unexpected places and how you're like interested in data and stuff. So I was just kind of wondering how you landed there and like your process. Yeah.
You just stay hungry. I wanted to know the different stages of the life cycle of how you deliver a project, like the master builder, the ideal master builder architect, master architect. So I started in a firm, and you can start anywhere, right? In the life cycle of a project delivery, you can start at any point. And usually they put you at the red mark, construction documentation. You pick up revisions because someone's supervising you. when you pick up the revisions, you can always ask, what is this about? What is that? And the more curious you are, and opportunities will come. So the client, it was actually, I think it was Rock Rose developer in Battery Park, and I was picking up benchmarks. And they needed a client model. I'm like, oh, I'll do the model. So I did the model to a lobby scale, and they were impressed because I Xeroxed the material, shrunk it down, and put the color and cut it out and paste it. And this is before, you know, what you can do now with the graphic tools and rendering tools. And so I stuck it on, and it looked real. The floor tiles and everything looked like finished model. And the client loved it. And because of that, they monitored me. And again, it starts with the mentor. So the mentor put me in his care, and every 6 months we had to check in, and he would like ask me, what do you want to work on next? I was like, well, I'm doing construction documents. How about DD? I'm sorry. The other stages of the project. I wanted to know what the prior milestone was and if there were competitions. So the more stages you cover, I think it leaves room for you to navigate beyond. I switched completely out of the traditional practice because I decided to resign after having my baby. And I thought, you know, I'm gonna be home full time. And that was after my field rep experience, which was 2-3 years in construction. And someone called me after 8 months, and they're like, you have field experience, I'd like to ask you to do construction management. I'm like, well, is it gonna pay for me to leave my kid? And then I have my in-laws. So then that's when I went into construction management. Learning all aspects of the construction. Really, designers, architects are creating design solutions for construction. That's the end goal. And so construction management is that other missing part of the traditional practice. And it is construction administration, but it's different when you are the construction manager overseeing the entirety of the project. So when I did that, then I went into the public sector. I was a construction manager for the client. And then I went into contract management, overseeing design firms that were designing projects for the client. And all we do is school, so ask me anything about schools. I can tell you anything and everything. Yeah, and then from there, I was curious about the budget. Where does the budget come from, right? Because in the public sector, there's a capital plan, $20 billion in 5 years. How does that work? So then I went to capital planning. And then that's when I resigned, because I wanted to finish my license, put my elbow at the table to say, I know what I know. And it's a validation. It's a huge, expensive certificate that says you're an architect and you're competent. And so that's why I would agree with Nicholas that as soon as you can, and same with Deborah and Chris, right, as soon as you can, get that license, finish the exams. And then it was a no-brainer to come back. Like, I had the breadth of the life cycle, and there was a position called life cycle cost management with operations, and I'm like, okay, that's where I'll go. So you are passionate in what you do it well, and stay curious.
Thank you. My other question was, when you were reviewing like licensure and like the New York State requirements, you were explaining that like where the hours won't, or where the credits won't count, like depending on who you're working for, and then how like you can work for like certain like adjacent fields like engineering companies or like landscape architecture. And then there was like 12 credits and like 5 credits. So I was just wondering what that meant, like the 12 credits and the 5 credits. Credits. Yeah.
New York State kind of evaluates things on this 12 credit arithmetic. So they give values to all different education scenarios, right? So the bachelor's got you the most, actually the master's degree got you the most. And so once you figure out where you are in that picture, you got to make up the other numbers of credits. The bachelor's will be 3, and they said minimum two. Oh, you brought it up?
Yes.
Okay. Minimum 2 have to be with a licensed architect. The other one could be in their other category, contractor, interior designer, engineering office, teaching, okay? And so that's what the two parts were. It was experience, it was education and experience. And that was how they organized that. It went from, you know, the highest value for education, you don't need as much experience, all the way down to, I have no education, I'm working for 12 years to get this. And I think it's 7 with an architect and 5 with other. And that's the way New York State has parsed that aspect of it. It's unique. It's one of the most difficult licenses to get, which makes it easier to get reciprocity in other states. So a New York license is one of the harder ones, California, New York, you know, the larger states. It's easier to get reciprocity in the other states because they're more strict about certain things. So did that help answer the question?
Yeah, wait, so just clarifying, like you need like minimum 2 years with a registered architect and then you can get, no, I think on the next slide, I think it's on the next slide, it says like, oh wait, or the next one, or the previous one probably, sorry. Oh wait, there was something that said, oh like, yeah, wait, I think it was like, yeah, category I and category J, it says like maximum credit granted 5 units. Oh, okay. So it's like, for like those categories, you can only get like 5 units worth of the credit or something?
Yeah, if you got all your credits with a licensed architect, you're good. In other words, that's what they want. They realize, well, maybe you won't be working for a licensed architect, and there's value working somewhere else. There's a lot of value working for a contracting company and engineers. So you understand how they're thinking. So it helps our thinking because we have to coordinate with them. And the more you understand about what they need, it makes our ability to serve the project as a whole. And that's how New York has set that up. I think it's a good system. But they do say, and then Ncarb says too, if you could get all those credits with the licensed architects, that's the benchmark high point. But if you can't, there's some other options underneath that. But they do have minimums.
Okay, thank you.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi. My name is Jonathan. 2 questions. First, I saw it said like B-Arc at Pratt with 9 points. So what's B-Arc at City Tech?
Same thing.
No.
B-Arch.
Because you see it says B-Arc CMU 9+1, B-Arc at Finch 8 points, 8 units.
Yeah, the school names are irrelevant. It's the degree titles.
9 units.
Yeah, so if you get a B-Arch from a NAB accredited school, you got 9 units. Okay.
Okay. And my personal experience, I'm a 3rd year. I never worked in a firm. I'm actually came back to school. I work in high-end millwork, and I don't know. Like it's hard for me to take time away from that because the work is good.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I'm wondering how I could get hours, or like what's a good route for me.
Oh, you're going. Well, you got your other right. So you got the contracting as hours.
Yes, I subcontract.
Yeah.
Go work.
But you will have to transition out of that to go work for a licensed architect.
And it would have to be like full time, or
Yeah. Yes.
I disagree.
that's what I'm saying. Is there a way I
Yes.
can like maybe
You
millwork
can work-
consultant? And, like,
I don't know consultant.
or
I've had
anything?
conversations with Ncarb about this because I had someone reach out to me about it as well. So consultant's a little complicated because that starts talking into the contract. You can work part-time for an architect and just log those hours. I don't know if you were here. Were you here at the beginning of the presentation? So I'm going to jump to one of.
That's with Ncarb.
Yes, but New York State will allow those Ncarb hours.
New York State will recognize it,
Yes.
but they won't recognize if you work 1 week and then didn't work for a week and then worked another week. They want consistent employment with the website.
That hasn't been what I've
found from the New York State, because I've had similar conversations from like advisees who reach out to me. But if you'd like, you can email me and I can reach out to New York State to just clarify that. That's fine. Sure.
So the way that, so I did get that requirement. So after doing my 3 years, New York State still asked me for additional requirements, an additional form. You can work part-time. I did work part-time for another architect doing sort of drafting alongside. So yeah, as long as you're working with them for a period of time, you can show those hours as towards your credits. But you have to be working with them. You can't say, like Devorah was mentioning, or 5 hours this week and then nothing for the next 3 months. You can't. It has to be consistent.
It has to be consistent.
There's a question in the
Is
back.
that helpful?
Yeah, so I could put 10 hours, 15 hours.
Yeah, you can also log some of the mill work, like you said, through the contractor under setting O. There's a limit to how many hours you can do under setting O. As you were told, you do need under setting A as well. You have a little flexibility though, because you work for a subcontractor. So you can log it under O and then find part-time or transition completely. That's up to you, to the architect route.
I also had a question about that because they have internships, but it's always for people who are currently in school. And that makes it hard for you to get your credits. I mean, but those who are young, just coming or out of school or in school currently, and they take a summer internship, their work experience gets logged in as credit.
Yes.
And it's going to. That's true. Oh, okay. So
Yeah, there's two, that experience has to count in 2 places. So Ncarb will accept every hour you work. Ncarb is if you work an hour, we'll give you an hour. But you also have to satisfy New York State. And New York State says, once you finish with Ncarb, good. But now we have to make sure that you've worked consistently with a licensed architect for 2 years. And I believe that they used to start that clock after you graduate, but now they've relaxed it a little bit, and they've migrated it down. And I believe after 3rd year is their line for New York State, which is a little odd, but you're about to ask another
yeah,
question.
so I'm gonna go out there on a limb. I worked for the city of New York for a number of years, and there was no licensed architect a lot of times. That, you know.
What division
could
did you
sign
work
off.
for?
Sorry?
Which division?
Yeah, project management more.
Mm-hmm.
I did work for a licensed architect for a little while.
What I would advise you to do is contact Robert Lopez. I think he's on one of the slides.
I saw his contact.
Yeah, I think that's it. There he is. Take that name. That is the executive secretary for architecture and landscape architecture. He is very accessible. He will answer your emails, or someone from his staff will. And when I meet with him, he always says, if someone has a question, because there's a gray area involved, email me. I'll give them the right answer so that you don't have a false expectation and then realize this didn't count. I thought it did. He'll verify if the experience counts for you. Yeah, our New York State licensure people are very friendly, very accommodating,
Very responsive.
very responsive, but don't assume that what you're doing is correct. It's what a lot of people got into trouble.
Yeah, last semester when we did this, similar questions came up, and the recommendation was reach out to New York State. Robert Lopez, he's been there for ages. He's very responsive. So
You should get him here.
We should. We should try to do that next semester. Yeah.
All the way from Albany.
Any other questions? That was a good one.
He's very
frustrated in trying to get experience on a part-time basis. It's just, it's either you're in school, recently out of school, like, any ideas?
How to get experience on a part-time basis? So that Kenneth is, he's the internship.
Yes.
But you can apply for the internship class here at City Tech. And Kenneth Conzelman is that coordinator. He was sitting right there, he had to leave.
Yeah, Professor Kenneth Conzelman. You can search him up on the staff directory for City Tech. He has the internship program. He teaches it. He can advise you because there are internships that have credits towards experience that overlap. See his name right there. Third one down. Kenneth Conzelman.
And that starts this summer?
It's every
He
year.
teaches the course here, and he advises on internships. Contact him directly and ask him if he can meet with you, advise on internship for experiencing work experience towards the licensure. Any other question? Great. I'm going to give it back to the speakers to wrap up their points, and then we're done, and you guys can come up and ask personal direct questions.
So before we close up, there was one thing that you had actually made me think of. It was advice that I actually gave to an advisee last week, and some advice I think that would be helpful for you guys. Once you leave school, no one sets deadlines for you to take your exams, right? You don't have a professor saying, this is the end of the semester, the project is due by then, you need to do it by then. Once you leave school, this whole process that we've been talking about today is completely on you. So if you're gonna set that deadline, you, like you had said earlier, decide you wanna do it and just set the deadline. I told a mentee, I said, how long do you think you need to study for your first exam? She said about 3 months. I said, so today we're gonna go ahead and schedule that first exam because maybe you need that deadline. You're no longer in school. You don't have that external push. You are your own push. You are your own, you have your own ambition. You have your own goals. And if you need to schedule that exam to force yourself to study, do so. My other little bit of advice is life gets in the way. We've heard many times. Set a realistic goal for the studying. The studying schedule for me was I studied 15 to 20 minutes a day during the week, and I gave myself 2 hours each weekend. If I had more that weekend, I'd study more. If I didn't have that much time, it didn't matter. I was studying for 2 hours. And that's kind of how I held myself accountable. That in addition to just scheduling the exam. Now, that being said, my email was on that last slide. I don't know if you want to swipe back, but I am a mentor. I am an Ncarb advisor. Please reach out to me with questions. Do you have a question?
Yeah. If you were to take a guess out of the 6 exams, which would be the easiest to like
The last
started
one.
and build a little foundation?
Okay, that's 2 different questions. The easiest was the last one. My advice is take them in order. And the reason why is the information builds on itself as the exams go along. So the lines are a little blurred between, I would say, the last 3. Look at your little paper. And then the 3 design ones that I had said, the lines blur. So I would advise you to take them in order because the information builds on itself. The easiest one was the last one. So I don't know if doing the last first is wise because that's not really how a project works, right? It also reinforces the steps of a project in your brain by doing them in order. Now that being said, my email was on the last slide. Please reach out to me if you have any questions.
I don't see your name. Oh, Devorah's name.
We're just gonna go to my email, and then you can email me. My name is Devorah. I didn't miss it. There it is.
Devorah Schwartz.
At lmvarchitects.com. There's also the YA, the Young Architects at AIA Brooklyn. And if you wanted to find out about the study groups, we would email the AIA Brooklyn as well. I think they're going to talk about that. So thank you for having me. I will stop talking now.
Your turn. give it to Celine. She's the co-chair of the American Institute of
Did you want them to wrap up first?
Brooklyn. Oh, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Closing remarks?
I don't always have closing remarks. I think we did a lot of talking today. And I just think the fact that you're here is the best step you could possibly take. Is to
Yes.
hear, I mean, there was a lot of great things that were said here. And I'm glad that you all came, so thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah, and I would say it is very daunting, especially starting out. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, feel like there's way too many steps, that's normal. Nobody really is going to tell you do it until you get ready to do it yourself. I think what Deborah said about studying your first exam, that is very accurate. There's a lot of outside factors in getting your license, financial, work, school, there's a lot of factors in it. And so use your community. You have 3 of us up here to be able to guide you. We've all been through the process in different forms. You can always reach out to me as well. I'm here, always around City Tech. I've graduated, but I feel like I haven't left yet because of how often I'm here. But yeah, use your resources. We don't bite. And yeah, just get connected with AI Brooklyn. That's a whole other organization where you'll find architects and internships and just other colleagues.
And on that note, we can talk about ourselves a little bit. We are part of AIA Brooklyn, one of the committee's emerging professionals. We do help the young architects with their licensing process, with their while they're navigating through their profession at the early stages of their careers. And we do it through a bunch of different events that we're organizing. Myself and Youngson are co-coordinators of the program this year. And we have Bill as the chair of our committee. We have Gretel, who is not here today, but she is actually running the ARE studies, which is a very valuable asset while working on your licensing process. And we do get together on second Mondays every month. If you would like to join, you can reach out to us through our email. We're on Instagram. We can include you in our WhatsApp, Slack. We do have different means of communications, which you can, we'll announce our events. And this month, we have a bunch of things coming up. Like me mentioned, we have the Architecture Week, the high school program here on this weekend. And we have a committee meeting on the 16th Thursday this month, if you would like to join. It's on Zoom at 6:30. And then we have our ARE study groups. Normally they're twice a month and they're more apart, but I guess this month, due to schedules, we had to do them more close to each other. Usually we do one over the weekend, early in the morning, and then one in the week, later at night. So whatever works for you, you can join, and we have everything on our Eventbrite. If you would like to see what is coming up for that study group, and you can be a part of a specific topic you would like to study for. Yeah, reach out to us and we'll be happy to run you through our events. If you would like to volunteer, we're always looking for more help. So thank you so much for coming here.
Feel free to mingle, ask questions, and thank you guys for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.